Good afternoon, everybody. This is Reverend Sam with Living in Love and Grace, Amazing Love Sanctuary. Here we are, Thursday, Maundy Thursday. What does that mean? Well, it means get used to washing feet. You ever washed anybody's feet? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. God bless. Hold on. I don't know about you, but I've said it before. I didn't grow up in a liturgical high church environment. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and we didn't celebrate. When we got to the Holy Week, we really celebrated Palm Sunday, jumped to Good Friday, jumped over to Easter Sunday. But traditionally, in Christianity, in the church, there's been a greater celebration, and that's what I wanted to share about because it's a new discovery for me as well. So we're always learning on stuff like that. But before I get into that, there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about, and that was yesterday we had a really bad broadcast with talking about Spy Wednesday, and Spy Wednesday was a tradition in the church for centuries, and it was kind of outlawed to celebrate it. And what it was a recognizing that it was on Spy Wednesday that Judas met with the priests, the religious leaders, and bargained or agreed to spy on Jesus and turn him in and for 30 pieces of silver. And so that's kind of a crazy story, a crazy series of events, but it was something I wanted to talk about because I think, one of the things we always love to look at Judas and really throw him on the heap, and but he was one of Jesus' disciples. He was one of the disciples that Jesus cared for. He had responsibility. He was the kind of the treasurer of the group, and but he was not he sold out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. I'm going to say something a lot of my pastor friends, preacher friends won't like. You've sold out your churches, your relationship for your own 30 pieces of silver, whatever it may be. Some of you are biting at the bit and waiting for the people in your congregations to tithe and to give money on the stimulus checks that they got from the government. I keep reading posts from pastor friends of mine that keep just throwing this crap out there, and that's all you care about is the 30 pieces of silver. Do you really care about their souls? Do you really care about the people? Are you really living up to your calling as a shepherd and as a pastor? Or is it really all about the money? Well, for Judas, it was all about the money. For a lot of people, it's all about the money. So I have a whole different perspective for you folks, and for my pastoral colleagues, it's not about the money. You sold out your soul for 30 pieces of silver, and it's just called a stimulus check. And so shame on you for that. That's just my opinion. Maundy Thursday. Here we are, Maundy Thursday. What does that mean? Well, I've never really practiced it for a long time, and then I started doing that, and it's the Thursday before Easter, when Jesus celebrated the final Passover with his disciples. And in that Passover, Jesus did something unbelievable. He washed the feet of his disciples. And he had this extraordinary, unbelievable display of servanthood and humility. And then he commanded them to do the same for each other. It was a mandate. It was a call. If you've never experienced that, both receiving and giving, it's humbling. It's humbling. It will change your perspective. And in this final week of Jesus' life, he gives this commandment to his disciples, and he shared with them this Last Supper, and he washes their feet, and he gives them this incredible lesson. And he says, "A new commandment I give you. A new commandment I give you. Love one another. Just as I have loved you, love one another." It's not some great concept of theology. It's just a simple practice. This is the reflection of Jesus that every follower of Jesus should strive for. To follow the humble carpenter and wash somebody's feet. It'll change your life. I've done it. I've received it. And it changes your perspective on people and who you're called to serve and why you're called to serve. All those pastors that are sitting out there stressing and worrying about money coming into their church and people tithing on their stimulus checks, call those people up, go next door, go to their homes and wash their feet. And love them. It makes me angry. I've been a pastor for 30 some years. And it makes me angry when I see people, when I see pastors just preoccupied with money. Bothers me. It just rattles my cage. And I keep seeing them over and over and over again on my Facebook feeds and my social media feeds. Pastors wanting more money, wanting more loyalty. You see, Jesus, when he said this, here's the crazy thing. He didn't say tithe more. He didn't say attend church more. He didn't say build big buildings. This is my commandment. This is my new commandment. Just as I have loved you, you are to love each other. You see, it raised the standard, this new higher standard. And Jesus met his followers and he sacrificed everything. And he sacrificed to meet their deepest needs. And what is that? More church? More giving? More attendance? No, not at all. It was a new spiritual life, a new freedom, a new understanding of the beauty of God's grace and God's love for everyone. He didn't say, go out there and tell people to say a prayer, a magic prayer that will get them a golden ticket to heaven. He didn't say that at all. He just said, love one another. He calls you and I, as we're going to be followers of him, to love everyone, to love our enemies, to love the ones that we don't agree with, to love the ones that are different from us. And he had nothing to gain from that. And that's what he calls us to do, to live out a life with nothing to gain, but communicating divine love, acceptance, and forgiveness. You see, Jesus loved the sinner. He loved the drunkard. He loved the tax collector. He loved the broken down human people to the max. and he had nothing to gain. So it's the same for us. I was reading something today. Somebody was talking about, another pastor friend of mine, talking about church attendance dropping and fewer and fewer people attending church. And I started to wonder, well, why is that the most important thing, the most important priority you have? Giving. It's money. Maybe if pastors, preachers, disciples, or followers of Jesus were out washing feet, things might be different. Even attacked people who said that the church has hurt them, has caused hurt, and that's why they're staying away. And he scolded people for that excuse. As a pastor, I've seen that, I've heard that, I've watched that. And it's real, folks. People have been beaten up by the church, beaten up by pastors, abused, taken advantage of. And how many pastors are opening their heart to washing feet, feeling the pain that people have, instead of going to their house and knocking on their door and saying, "Forgive me, let me wash your feet"? What drew people to Jesus? Not his theology, not his degrees, not his nothing. It was his love for people. It wasn't his skillful speaking. It wasn't he was just this plain guy. And what drew people to him was his simplicity. That while we were still broken, flawed human beings, he still loved us. We can take the Bible and take it apart left and right to satisfy our own whims and our own desires and our own theology and our own belief systems. But my question for us today is, are we observing this new command to love the least, to love the misunderstood, to love the ones that we don't know how to love and understand how to love the ones that maybe the people that hate? See, here's the secret here, is you can't hate somebody enough to make God stop loving them. You can't hate somebody enough to make God turn his back on them. Maybe your religious system does. Maybe your church does. Maybe your own personal theology does. Maybe the way you read the Bible does. But it can't. We've been called to love. This is my new commandment, that you love one another. Here's a simple passage from 1 John. Beloved, let us love one another. Not just my Christian brothers, not just my straight brothers or sisters, but my LGBTQ brothers and sisters, my transgender brothers and sisters, the homeless guy with the sign on the corner of the street, love the guy who's got a sign. I drove by one yesterday. He said, had a sign, "Why lie? I just want beer." Jesus loves him. And he couldn't stop loving him if he wanted to. I did a funeral a number of years ago, for a woman, and in the preparation of the funeral, I could not find one member of the family that would come and say one good thing about her. She was a terrible mother. She was a terrible wife. She was a terrible human being. That was people's attitude. The crazy thing was they all got together. They all came to the church for this massive funeral and massive potluck afterwards. And some distant relative came from Las Vegas and read an obscure poem that didn't even make any sense. And I remember being moved as I got up to eulogize this person. And it dawned on me that no matter how many people refused to say anything good about her, and maybe there was nothing good about her, God never stopped loving her. Never. And he will never stop loving you and I. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is born of God, is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. Why is that so hard to grasp? Why is that so hard to understand? It just drives me crazy. There's a lot of churches right now that are observing Maundy Thursday. They do it with the communion. They do it with the foot washing. And so many Christians at this time of the year spend their moments and days reflecting on the sacrifice of Jesus, waiting for Easter to celebrate his death and resurrection. I have a different perspective. Let's focus on his commandment to love everyone and serve everyone. Stop hating. I don't care if your church preaches hate. That's okay. You don't have to hate. Your politics may support your willingness or ability to hate other people. That's okay. But you can't be a follower of Jesus and hate. So on this Maundy Thursday, I encourage you and challenge you to put it aside. Put the hate aside. Focus on the love. Focus on the call. I read this passage or this reading yesterday at a wedding that I officiated. It's called Relationships by Gerald May. And I want to close with this because I think it was so profound and so beautiful, and I just couldn't stop reading it, thinking about it. And he wrote, "There's a desire within each one of us, in the deep center of ourselves, that we call our heart. We were born with it. And it's never completely satisfied, and it never dies. Most of the time we're unaware of it, but it's always awake. What is it? It's the human desire for love. Every person in this world, in this earth, yearns to love, to be loved, to know love. Our true identity and our reason for being is to be found in this desire." He goes on. "Love is the why of life, why we are functioning at all, what we want to be efficient for. And I'm convinced that love is the fundamental energy of the human spirit, the fuel on which we run, the wellspring of our vitality, and the grace which is flowing, creative activity of love itself. It's what makes all goodness possible. Love should come first. It should be the beginning of and the reason for everything. I don't know what you're feeling right now. I feel some sense of conviction. I feel some sense of movement from the Spirit in my heart to remind us of love. So on this Maundy Thursday, what can I do? What can you do? Well, you can reflect on what we just talked about and read. You could wash somebody's feet. That's a pretty humbling experience. You might want to reflect on what this all really means to you and how it applies to your life. So many things can happen in our hearts and our lives. So many people are hurting and broken. Some people are so many people are just trying to find a meaning for their life. But you know what everyone wants? More than anything else? Love. Love me the way I am. Love me the way God created me to be. Love me with all of my flaws. Love me with all of my struggles. Love me with all of my pain. That is the true definition of a follower of Jesus. This is my new commandment. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. I hope this blessed you. I hope it made you a little bit uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable to to speak about it. And that's how you know it's connecting to your heart. I hope you have a great Maundy Thursday. Love one another. God bless you.